القصة هي قصة تأليف السياسيين.
Good afternoon on this Saturday, September 12th. I'm Yumna Naufal. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. These are today's stories. Saudi authorities investigate a construction crane collapse, killing at least 107 people during a storm at Mecca's Grand Mosque, pledging that the annual Hajj pilgrimage would go ahead. A coalition of activist groups, which includes Youth Stink, reject Agriculture Minister Akram Shayib's plan to manage Lebanon's waste, describing it as an act of deception. And human rights groups say migrants and refugees are being kept in abysmal conditions at detention camps near the Hungarian border. Saudi authorities are investigating a construction crane collapse that killed at least 107 people during a storm at Mecca's Grand Mosque, pledging that the annual Hajj pilgrimage would still go ahead. Nearly 200 others were injured, and panic did break out as the massive crane crashed down on the mosque, one of Islam's holiest sites, as worshippers were gathering for the weekly Friday prayers. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims have already arrived in Mecca for the Hajj, one of the world's largest religious festivals, which last year drew 2 million worshippers. Saudi officials said this year's Hajj would proceed despite the tragedy. Now, Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim population nation, said 2 of its nationals were killed, while Malaysia and Iran said its citizens were also among those injured. As world leaders offered condolences, the governor of Mecca region, Prince Khalid Al Faisal, ordered an investigation into the incident. Back in Lebanon, a coalition of activist groups, which includes the Youth Stink group, is rejecting Agriculture Minister Akram Shayib's plan to manage Lebanon's waste. They are describing it as an act of deception and calling for an environmental state of emergency. The August 29 gathering told the reporters that the 18-month transitional period to manage Lebanon's waste announced by Shayib earlier this week violated a sustainable solution for the trash crisis. The conference was held outside the Environment Ministry, where 11 protesters have been camped out since September 3rd to press for the resignation of the minister, Mohammed Mashnou, over his handling of the crisis. The coalition, named after a large anti-government protest held in downtown Beirut on the August 29th of last month, is comprised of several groups that have sprouted in the wake of the waste management crisis. Youth Stink, which has been the driving force behind the movement calling for sustainable solutions to the crisis, endorsed the statement. The solution, the gathering said, would be by announcing an environmental state of emergency to swiftly remove the waste and immediately operate the sorting plants across the country, in addition to guaranteeing that they don't have an impact on the groundwater, and endorsing a law linked to the comprehensive management of solid waste. Maronite Patriarch Shaddai is voicing calls on all protesters not to be led astray by the little demands and to emphasize on raising their voices and calling for the election of a president. All the protesters, he said, should be not distracted by small demands for the resignation of a minister or another. They must, however, focus on demands to elect a president. Dai said this on his second-day tour to Mount Lebanon. He has kicked off a 3-day tour to the area, and he addressed politicians by saying that we can no longer live without a president and we can no longer deafen our ears to the demands to elect one. On Friday, the Patriarch conveyed a similar message, urging the campaigners of Youth Stink to take advantage of their demonstrations and call for the end of the vacuum at the top Christian post in the country. Lebanon, just to remind you, has been without a president since May 2014, when the term of President Sulaiman ended and rival politicians have failed to elect a substitute. In Syria, 11 people were killed in rebel rocket fire on the capital Damascus, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The Britain-based monitor said the deaths were in the Duwaila neighborhood on the southeastern outskirts of Damascus, adding that most of those killed appeared to be civilians. At least 20 people were also injured in the Friday shelling. Rebels in strongholds on the outskirts of the capital regularly fire rockets into Damascus, often killing scores of people, many of them civilians. The regime also regularly carries out airstrikes on rebel-held areas around Damascus, particularly the eastern Ghouta region, where aerial assaults in August alone killed 377 people. This is according to Doctors Without Borders, and rights groups are criticizing both rebels and the regime for indiscriminate fire that largely affects civilians. Human rights groups are also saying that migrants and refugees are being kept in abysmal conditions at detention camps near the Hungarian border. Now, a group of refugees made it across the Hungarian border, but they did not go very far. The Hungarian authorities are calling the camps reception centers. The fences about 4 meters high, topped with razor wire, are far from welcoming. Human rights groups say the way people are being treated is inhumane. The authorities say people should only be in these camps for a maximum of 36 hours. But in reality, people are often there for much longer. Some people say they have already been in the camp for days and that there is a lot of fear as well as confusion because people don't know when they will be allowed to leave or where they will be taken to next. Coming up next, Donald Trump is a guest on Jimmy Fallon, and he says he doesn't have a problem apologizing. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is tasked with outgoing oil minister Sharif Ismail with forming a new government after the premier and his cabinet resigned. A senior government official told AFP the reshuffle was intended to pump new blood into the government after it was rocked by a corruption scandal that led to the arrest of the agriculture minister on Monday. U.S. President Barack Obama told military service members that the anniversary of the September 11 terror attacks is a solemn day, and he wants to use it to make sure those killed are never forgotten. Obama met with troops at Fort Meade in Maryland and took questions through social media from those stationed overseas. The president said the U.S. still faces significant threats, including from the Islamic State group forces in the Middle East.
You know, I've had an opportunity as president to meet with many of the survivors, the family members of those who were killed. And you know, on this particular day, we are constantly reminded of their loss. We want to let them know that we do not forget those who were fallen. We are inspired by the survivors, many of whom still have the scars, both seen and unseen, of that terrible, terrible day. And it's also a good time to remember all the people who have served and sacrificed since 9/11 in order to keep America safe and free. Both in Iraq and in Syria, in Afghanistan, in North Africa, what we're very clear about is that we still have significant threats coming from terrorist organizations and a terrorist ideology. We also have the traditional threats that our military has to be prepared for. I think that we have to work with our European partners on this issue. You know, the refugee crisis is not just a European problem, it's a world problem, and we have obligations. I made certain to send through every agency that we've got to do our part, first of all, in taking our share of refugees. We are encouraged by the efforts of the European Union to accept refugees in all countries and spread out some of the burdens and the pressure. And as I said, the United States needs to do our share. I said that we should establish a floor of at least 10,000 refugees that we're willing to accept and cut through some of the bureaucracy and red tape to do that. We are going to be engaging Russia to let them know that you can't continue to double down on a strategy that's doomed to failure, and that if they are willing to work with us and the 60-nation coalition that we've put together, then there's the possibility of a political settlement in which Assad would be transitioned out and a new coalition of moderate, secular, and inclusive forces could come together to restore order in the country. That's our goal.
Donald Trump says he's never had a problem apologizing, and if he's ever wrong about anything, he would do it. The billionaire developer and Republican presidential frontrunner was speaking during an appearance on Friday on NBC's The Tonight Show. More earnestly, he told host Jimmy Fallon that Americans want their nation to be respected again, and he promised to do great things for the country if he wins the presidency.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to The Tonight Show, Donald Trump! I don't want to start off serious, but today is September 11th. I'm a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker. What does today mean to you?
In a certain sense, it means strength, because the way the city came back, I've never seen anything like it. And the country came back, and the city came back, and there is a great strength and resilience that we have in this country. We have amazing people, and I think more than anything else, that's what I mean.
Probably 8 months ago, if I said your name running for president, it would get a laugh. And then all of a sudden, you started seeing a switch. And I said your name, and people go, oh, what? And there was a real switch. And the same thing about Hillary Clinton. 8 months, I'd say, Hillary Clinton is going in, and she's already picked out her furniture for and that would get, people go, yeah, that's right, she's a shoo-in. Now people are going, well, I don't know. It's just...
Well, she's had a very, very tough time, and I think it's going to be very tough for her. She's had a very, very bad time. I've never seen anything like it. But as far as...
Have you ever apologized? Ever? In your lifetime? Think back, close your eyes, think back to baby Donald, when you were little Donnie Trump. Did you ever apologize?
This was not supposed to be one of the questions. This one came out of the...
None of this.
No, actually none of this was we had a very nice little sequence of questions.
Yeah, no, I don't...
So far, I think you said, yeah, throw them.
Yeah, I don't care about this. I want to talk to you. I'm like you now. I don't use teleprompters. I'm like you.
Much better.
It's like in the mirror.
I fully think apologizing is a great thing, but you have to be wrong if you're not wrong. Like, for instance, they wanted me to apologize when I first announced for president. They wanted me to apologize because I brought up illegal immigration. Yeah. It turned out I took such heat. Oh, for the first 2 weeks, did I take heat? But ultimately, it turned out that I was right. And now people that reported on me are saying thank you very much. I mean, hard to believe. Actually, reporters. And I was right on it, but I will absolutely apologize sometime in the hopefully distant future if I'm ever wrong.
You've been having a little trouble with the music involving your campaign, and so I think I have it solved. I think you're picking the wrong genre.
Okay.
I think I have the song for you. This should be your song. This is All I Do Is Win. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go. That's what I'm talking about. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, it happens to be 100% true.
Mark the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Saudi authorities investigate a construction crane collapse that killed at least 107 people during a storm at Mecca's Grand Mosque, however, pledging that the annual Hajj pilgrimage would still go ahead. A coalition of activist groups, which includes You Stink, reject the agriculture minister's plan to manage Lebanon's waste, describing it as an act of deception. And human rights groups say migrants and refugees are being kept in abysmal conditions at detention camps near the Hungarian border. Stay tuned for our French news anchor Serge Berberi. He's up next. Tomorrow, A Positive Majority, our new series highlighting positive people, resumes on Future Television. Make sure to watch. Take care.
القصة هي قصة النهاية السياسية.